Hello and welcome to another episode of The Well-Appointed Mystic. Today I decided that I would do a VR to Coyote Tarot, Coyote Tarot, the Reintroduce Yourself tarot tag. And it has not been quite a year since I did my first YouTube video under Well-Appointed Mystic, but it seemed like a good time to go ahead and try this out, and I've really enjoyed watching other people's reintroduced videos, so I thought I would throw my hat in the ring. So I have my laptop over here with all the questions, so if I'm kind of glancing off to the side, it's just me trying to stay on task. So the first question was, where are you from? So I was originally born in Chicago, but I currently live in Kansas City, Missouri. If you are not someone who lives in the United States, you might not know where Kansas City is. So if you looked at a map of the United States and you threw a dart directly in the center of it, that is where I live. So it's very, what Americans refer to as Midwestern. It is, I guess there's a lot of farmland. There are a few smaller cities, but it is definitely not East Coast, West Coast, or big cities. And so it's quite a change for me from Chicago, but I've lived here for quite a while now, so I'm pretty used to it. The advantage here is that I was actually able to afford to buy a house at one point. I don't know if I could have done it now, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, Kansas City, Missouri. The next question is, how did you come up with your tarot tube name? So I go by the Well-Appointed Mystic on TarotTube, and it is literally a riff on my other life, which is as the Well-Appointed Desk. So I have been doing a blog website for about 15 years that is all about fountain pens, stationery, and everything in the stationery community. And so I do also have a YouTube channel under Well-Appointed Desk. I don't make a ton of videos over there, but I have started doing some more frequently. Yeah, so that's it. Well-Appointed Mystic was just a play on Well-Appointed Desk. So you can find either account here, and I will leave a link in the descriptions if you want to check out Well-Appointed Desk or the website. So anyway, that's the whole gist. I couldn't think of a better name, so I went with what I knew. How long have you been reading tarot? I have been reading tarot seriously for about the last 3 years or so, but I got my very first tarot deck back in the 1990s, late 90s, and was very interested in it. I just didn't know anyone else who was, and at the time there weren't the online resources that exist today, so I definitely felt kind of alone in my exploration back in the 90s, so it kind of got shelved for a long time. How did you get into reading tarot and oracle? So this goes back to my life in Chicago. I lived down the street from a place called the Occult Bookstore on Milwaukee Avenue. Any Chicagoans are probably familiar with it. It closed several years ago, but had been open since the 1950s, I think, at the time that I found it. And I was having a particularly crappy day at my day job. I worked for a very angry man who actually threw something at me because he was upset that things were not going the way that he wanted them to. And so I left the office because I wasn't going to work for someone who was literally threatening me with physical objects. And I hopped on the train and got off the L at Milwaukee, Damon and Division. That would have been my stop. And I was walking home, and I think as I was walking past the Occult Bookstore, someone was entering or exiting, and there was that wonderful incense smell that wafted out, and I took it as a sign to go in. And I went into the shop for the very first time. I met the woman behind the counter who became very important in my life later on. But I wandered around, and I believe that at that particular moment, I picked up one of those itty bitty teeny tiny RWS decks that at the time cost under $10, and took it home with me, almost as a talisman against this horrible man that I was working for. And I also, like I said, made a really great friend who was the woman who was helping behind the counter, and we're still friends to this day. So you kind of never know when you're going to meet somebody who makes a big impression on your life. But yes, that's how I started with tarot. I got back into it as a result of having worked for a company called Victorian Trading Company. I was a product designer, and we were both selling decks from US Games and Llewellyn on our website. But my coworkers were also just very open and accepting to people who wanted to explore different interests. So it was the first time that I was around a lot of people who just were totally fine. My cats are growling and hissing at each other. I don't know what's crawled up their bums. But yeah, so while I was at VTC, I just was able to sort of explore tarot cards and Oracle cards, one, because we had them there, so I was able to buy a few at a considerably discounted price, and that was like purchasing one of my first decks was a copy of the Rider-Waite-Smith Centennial Edition through the company, and then had, you have some guy from the warehouse delivered up to your desk. It was just a very exciting. I was very happy about that. So after that, I discovered TarotTube and Amazon, and being able to order decks online from Llewellyn and US Games and Red Wheel and all that, and it just snowballed. So anyway, that was really long. Do I read for other people? Occasionally I do, but not very often. I do think, again, I live in an area where it's a little bit more conservative in general. And so, other than putting your face on YouTube so that everyone knows who you are, it can be a little awkward to tell people that you read tarot cards. And I've gotten better about it over the years, because I'm to the point now where I just don't care really if you're gonna think of me badly because I read tarot cards. But yeah, that's kind of it. Occasionally I have friends ask or something like that. Sometimes my husband, but mostly I just read for myself, which I'm sure I would become a better reader if I read for other people. So maybe I'll make more of an effort moving forward. There's a question here on how many decks do you have? And I debated whether or not I was going to go into my area where I keep all my decks and count them. And I just decided that nobody cares that much how many decks I have. Basically, the short answer is a lot. At least for me, I know there are other people on TarotTube who have 2 and 3 and 4 times as many decks as I do, and people who have many fewer decks. So I feel like I fall right in the middle in terms of collecting. I do have a lot of decks. When I got into it, I bought a lot of decks really fast. A lot of mass market decks because they weren't very expensive, and just really enjoyed seeing different decks and different interpretations. I have slowed down my buying quite a bit, but I also no longer have a full-time job. I work for myself, so my budget is considerably smaller. And also I'm a lot more choosy about it, because not that any of the decks that I have purchased over the years were not good decks. They just weren't good for me, or they didn't work for me at the time, or, I didn't gel with the artwork, or I wasn't crazy about how the guidebook was written, those types of things. So, and also I'm the kind of person who tends to do better with fewer options, or sort of finding ways to group things in such a way that it's if I want to find a collage deck, I have a section that are collage decks, and maybe I don't need 16 collage decks, maybe I only need 8 collage decks, and which ones are my favorites and that kind of thing. So that's a really long answer to a fairly short question. But I used, the other part of this is that I used to keep a spreadsheet where I indicated tarot decks that I owned, Oracle decks that I owned, stuff that I had on order because I was ordering and backing a lot more Kickstarters. So I just wanted to keep a record of all of that, and then also just taking a listing and moving it from what I had into like a purgatory list and that kind of thing. But I got real slack about it, and I can't decide if I'm going to go back and redo it or just not bother. Does anybody else keep one of those? Let me know. Like, do you find it helpful? Because originally I thought, well, do I keep this just for like insurance purposes if anything ever happened, or just to keep track in my own head of how much I buy and sell tarot decks? I don't know. Anyway, that is how many tarot decks do I have? A lot. The next question is, where do you store your decks? And I was debating whether or not to like drop in a little video here, which I might do. And just sort of walk through where I keep all of my decks, because I even went through the effort of cleaning up a little bit so that there aren't quite as many dust bunnies as there usually is. But the long and short of it is that I keep most of my decks in my bedroom by my bed. I have a bookcase and a drawer unit where I keep most of my like most active decks, and then as I've acquired things, they've gone into plastic tubs that live under my bed. And the plastic tubs, like some of them are decks that are sort of in purgatory, but not really. In some cases, it's like I've grouped decks into like little categories. And then they've ended up living in plastic containers that I keep underneath the bed. But really, like, I have a drawer unit that the top drawer is all tarot decks, the bottom drawer is all Oracle decks, and I started keeping my decks in this drawer unit just to try to keep like cat hair and dust and stuff off of them, and also make sure that they didn't get sun damage. Not that my house gets a ton of light, but you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted them to be protected. And then some of the decks slowly moved to the bookshelf by my bed because they were decks I was reaching for more regularly. And then the ones that maybe don't get reached for as often, or maybe I haven't done any kind of deep study with yet, kind of live under the bed. So that's sort of that. Hopefully I drop the video in here. If not, I will try to put some pictures or something. So the next question is, what do you look for in a deck? And I think at this point, since I have accumulated quite a few decks with different looks, really I'm looking for something that's doing something different than what I already have. Like, I have a ton of collage decks. I have a ton of cat decks. I have a ton of sort of illustrative, more painterly decks. And so what I'm really looking for is, like, does someone approach it slightly differently? Or am I interested in pursuing like a new sort of deck study? You know, so it's like this summer I'm thinking that I might do more pip deck homework because I haven't really worked with them, but I already have a couple pip decks, so I'm not sure that I'll go looking for an additional one. I'm more likely to look for a good guidebook based on studying pip decks, that kind of thing. So really it's like, if the art, it's always the art for me that comes first. If the art catches my eye, then I will look into a deck more deeply. And you know, I mean, I think that's the truth for everybody, right? You just realize that, you know, you want the deck, you want a deck that captures your soul, captures your heart in some way. I've realized now that I definitely want a guidebook that works with a deck. I've had a couple recently where it was like generic definitions with a deck that was not just a standard Rider-Waite-Smith or Marseille deck, and I found it real off-putting because, like, at that point, like, just don't put a guidebook in there at all and let me use my own reference material was really my sensation with it. And with Oracle decks, my probably the thing I look for most frequently is that I want keywords on it or a really easy to use guidebook. It drives me crazy if they don't put, like with an Oracle deck, if the guidebook isn't in alphabetical order based on the keyword or the whatever's on the card, or if there aren't numbers that are then associated in the book. Like I've had a couple where it's like, it's all in crazy order and I'm like, this is crazy. Like what, it would not have been that hard to put this in, like put a 1, 2, 3 on each card and then put the guidebook data in that order. So that's something that I look for in a deck. Keywords and make the guidebook easy to use. So how would I describe my deck collection? I thought about this for a long time and I really think it's kind of arty-farty. I know that seems strange, but I'm sitting here in front of my shelf of all art books and stuff, so maybe that will give you a little clue in. I've worked as a graphic designer for many, many years and a product designer, so I definitely like a deck that coalesces, like looks really good with itself. You know, like the artwork all holds together. The color, like it's all thought through thoroughly. Yeah. So yeah, I like pretty, you know. But I mean, I have cute decks too. I have silly decks. I have a little bit darker. I don't go real dark. Decks that are really, like, I already live in a dark place, like emotionally sometimes, so I don't need decks to be real dark. Like the horror tarot, those types of things, like horror movies are bad for me, that kind of thing, you know. It's like the human emotions are enough of a problem for me. So yeah. Do I rehome my decks? Oh, it asks if I have a go-to tarot or oracle deck. Yeah, the Tarot of Mystical Moments. That probably sums up what my deck collection looks like. That's probably one of my favorite decks. It is very pretty, aesthetic. It holds together really nicely. I wish it was on different cardstock and slightly smaller. The mini version is too small. I feel like what's the character that Goldilocks. Like I'm looking for the Goldilocks version of the Tarot of Mystical Moments. The current full-size edition is too big and the mini edition is too small. So, do I rehome decks? Yes. Mostly, I make my decisions based on space constraints. I live in a small house. I have a lot of other things that I collect and it takes up a lot of space. So sometimes I also get decision paralysis if I have too many of a certain type of deck or style or whatever. And it helps me to focus a little, I think, to trim them down. I have not done any rehoming recently, so I do have a big pile that I will probably try to rehome soon. I haven't figured out the best way to do it. I know a lot of people use Facebook Marketplace, but I don't really spend much time on Facebook. So if you guys have any recommendations of good ways to rehome decks, I think the last time I actually took them to a secondhand bookstore and basically got pennies on the dollar for each one, but I just really wanted them out of my house. And I hope that they make their way into the hands of someone who might not have been able to get those decks at full price somewhere else. So the next section is on my practice. What does your tarot practice look like? So I do a daily card pull, usually tarot and an oracle card, and I pick a deck each month to use for my for the entire month. And I started doing this about a year or so ago because I was jumping around so much that I didn't feel like I was really learning a deck or kind of getting that understanding from a deck. And I have found it to be so helpful for me to stay with one deck for the entire month. This is also the first month where I ever bailed on a deck 7 days in. It was a deck I had not worked with before. I had decided this was the month that I was going to work with it. And I got 7 days in and I was like, me and this deck do not get along. Like, it just was like, the readings were really cold. It was not the deck for me. I can talk about it more in my monthly wrap up, speaking of which, and go into more detail. But yeah, so 7 days in, I switched to a different deck and we are having a much better time. Thank you very much. And this was also the month that I had decided I wasn't going to do a tarot and an oracle. I was really going to focus on tarot, and clearly that didn't work out so well for me. So anyway, but normally I do like at least one tarot card, one oracle card at some point during the day, and I'm not very consistent. Like, I don't always read in the morning, I don't always read at night. Sometimes it'll be in the middle of the day. I work from home, so I have the option, like if I have a bunch of stuff I need to do first thing in the morning, then I might not do my daily card pull until lunchtime. And sometimes I'll do it at the end of the day and sort of do it as a reflection. So I'm okay with that part of my practice being really flexible, because I think if I put too many constraints on myself that I have to do it every morning with my cup of coffee, it won't get done, because I will just resist that level of, you must do it this way. So yeah, as regarding tools, I am definitely of the Melissa Sonova kitchen table tarot mentality. The tools that I use are my cards and a journal of some sort to write down what I've pulled for the day, just so that I can keep a record of it. I am an asthmatic, so I don't use any incense. Occasionally I will use like a spray, because I can handle liquid scent, but I can't handle smoke. To just sort of, like, if the room feels stale or that kind of thing, I will spray beforehand. I do, make sure my hands are clean before I handle my decks. But really, I believe that you can read cards anywhere if your heart's in the right place. You can be sitting at your kitchen table, you can be sprawled out on your bed, you can be sitting in the front seat of your car. And I have done that. I'm sure we all have. Like, if I need to talk to my cards, I have a mini deck I keep in my purse, and I will sit in the driver's seat and I will stick them along the dashboard, because that's sometimes the best place to do it. I'm by myself. I can, just do what I need to do. So yeah, I turn to my cards for answers. Yes, sometimes. More how I should handle a situation, like what direction should I take? What's the best, like, if I do this, will the outcome be good, kind of readings. But oftentimes my readings for daily use are much more of a, what do I need to know for today? What do I need to focus on? Those types of things. So yeah, I feel like I have a really casual approach, but I really want it to be a part of my everyday life in a way that I think if I put too many constraints, I mean, like, the part of my practice is, like, I do like to try to do monthly challenges sometimes, where I try to specify a deck and go through, like, is it the Lionhearts Tarot? Is that the people on Instagram who do the sort of monthly challenges and stuff? But I try to do some of those every now and again. I have not done them in a while. I realized that I had put too many projects in my path, and so nothing was getting done because I was so overwhelmed, like, which project am I going to work on today, that nothing happened. So I'm trying to, like, recognize when I am pushing myself too hard to do too many things. Next question. What does a typical tarot card reading look for you? I kind of talked about that already. One tarot, one oracle. Sometimes I'll do this sort of 3-card, 2 tarot and an oracle in the middle, and it's like the most common reading like that is what do I need to let go of, release, that kind of thing. What do I need to embrace or bring into my life? And then that oracle card for sort of emotional resonance, some focus, that kind of thing. So that's probably the most common reading that I do. So the next section is on YouTube and TarotTube. What kind of content is your favorite to post and watch? I love to watch deck pairing videos and deck comparison videos, like the this or that's that Lisa Pepez does. Like she's done a couple of those this and that's where it's like a mass market deck versus a indie deck kind of comparisons. But I really enjoy those because I have a larger tarot collection. Sometimes it's nice to see somebody put a deck next to another deck. And I have done a few of those and I do like doing them. What else do I like? I really like people's monthly wrap-ups or monthly setups or how they're approaching their practice each month because it's such a humanizing situation to watch people talk about, like, this month was really rough. I had a lot going on. You know, we had family stuff, so things didn't go as smoothly as I hoped. And then other people who are like, man, I was in it 100%. I did all the things. I did all the challenges. I participated in online, you know, discussions, like all that kind of stuff. That gives me hope that I can get to those places at some point and participate in a lot more things. But anyway, so yeah, I really like monthly wrap-ups or monthly overviews kind of thing. How did I get into creating on YouTube? I kind of decided, why not? I really enjoy it, and I wanted to contribute to the community more than anything. I felt like I was getting so much out of TarotTube, watching other people's videos and the content that they provided, that I felt like it was the right thing to do, to step up and do it and add my voice in whatever, good, bad, or indifferent, to the community, and you know, realize how much work and how much time and how much effort people put into these videos. Definitely now I know at an even deeper level. So thank you to TarotTube for being there for me. So the next question is, knowing what you know about YouTube and TarotTube now, is there anything that you would do differently? I would probably say the first thing is I would have gotten into it sooner. I probably watched TarotTube for 2 years before I actually even considered doing my own videos. I guess, yeah, maybe I've been doing this longer than I think I have. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. Like, I watched hours and hours and hours of TarotTube before it even occurred to me that I had anything to contribute. And I don't know that, you know, it's that thing, like, you put this stuff out there and hopefully what I provide, my perspective, my point of view, is helpful to someone somewhere, and just adds another, you know, another sound to our community. So yeah, I think if you are out there wondering if you should start your own TarotTube channel, I say yes, please. We need as many perspectives and voices as possible. I think that it empowers our community, and it also validates it. I think it makes it less scary for people who are not necessarily participants but thinking about it. Like, I just think it's good. We are providing content and information, opinions, and excitement to something that at one point in time people found really scary, or, you know, didn't like, you know, that whole thing of like that first moment when you decide you're going to tell somebody that you read tarot cards and you're waiting for them to be like, you know, this is where, like, the more of us that come out and say this is what we do and we enjoy it and it's for personal growth, and, you know, is there some element of mysticism to it? I think that there is. And is that the universe helping you find your path? Is it a god or goddess or spirit that's taking you down the path that you need to be on? I don't know. But I like to believe, in the same way that I find it a miracle when flowers bloom, that the messages that I get from the tarot are just as spectacular and magical to me. So anyway, that is the whole list. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope to participate in the next TarotTube VR challenge. Thanks so much for watching. Again, my name is Anna. This is the Well-Pointed Mystic, and I will see you again real soon.